Hi, I'm Brittany.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Katie, better known as Joyner.
We are three best friends and professionals, pediatric speech-language pathologists, and moms who try really, really hard. But we are by no means experts.
In many cases, we will be learning right along with you. The advice we offer is of a general nature and certainly does not replace the advice of a medical professional.
We hope you leave our conversation with something in your cup, whether it be laughter, new information, inspiration, a question. We hope we can fill your cup. Welcome to the Cup of Counsel podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 3. This is the last of our 3-episode intro package deal, if you will. So first we talked about our friendship, then we talked about our mommy life, and today we are talking about being speech pathologists. We're really excited for our future episodes. This is probably the most you guys will hear about us. We have quite a few guests lined up for our future episodes. Everything from speech pathology topics to mommy topics, friendship. So I hope everyone is looking forward to those.
All right. So, Amy, what's in your cup today?
Well, I am actually drinking another local brew from Uda Pills Brewery in Minneapolis, and it's a Pilsner beer. My husband and I absolutely love every beer that they make. In my other cup is just obsession for the field that we've all chosen. I love all things speech pathology, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about picking a path and a little brief story about each of our journeys into this field that we all really love.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best job.
It is.
It is.
I have been the supervisor for multiple grad students, and I think the first thing I tell them every time on their first day is, congratulations, you picked one of the best fields that anyone could ever go into. And I feel that way for so many reasons, which we will probably talk about. But it's an amazing field that allows for so much opportunity and so much flexibility.
And variety. Such a variety. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. And such a nice balance between the medical world and the educational world. Like we're like our own little world in therapy. And we are like vital to patients' like progress. Like, progress doesn't exist without what we do. So, and it's just so interesting, the things that we do.
We literally get to be in a profession where we help people talk in different ways and help people swallow and help people do some of life's most important things. And we get to have a big hand in that and do it with different ages and different stages. And I don't know if we always get the credit that we deserve sometimes in that arena in terms of like shows and media, but I honestly don't know if people really know what a speech pathologist does. I don't think many people are aware of what we do.
No, I think people think or see that it's just the articulation piece usually, or stuttering. I think I've talked about this. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, like working on just a specific sound or stuttering is a big one. Or I've said before, I've seen a show on TV before where the child has a diagnosis of autism and they're talking about him going to ABA, which is great, but then also physical therapy. And this kiddo, from my eyes, PT may say differently, but it looks like he doesn't really need PT. But they didn't once talk about needing speech, and it just like irked me because that was the first thing he needed, because his social skills needed to be targeted, and that's a huge part of our field. But of course, I don't think people know that, and even like mainstream media definitely doesn't know that. Right.
So here we are seeing a child with a diagnosis of being on the spectrum, and he's going to physical therapy and ABA. So,
which is needed for some kids, but I think speech therapy gets left out
a lot.
And I don't think...
So does OT though too, for sure. OT does too. Really misunderstood. Shout out to all of our OTs we love out there, and our PTs and our ABAs. But let's talk about speech. What is a speech therapist or speech pathologist? Because we're a lot of things.
We are a lot of things. Of course, we do work on the obvious piece of our title is speech. So we work on helping people birth to death talk, and whether it's verbal communication or using alternative means like a device or something else, help them communicate. And we do work on specific sounds with people too, working on, like Brittany mentioned, social skills. There's just so many things. And then I think a piece that is often not really well known is the feeding part of it, feeding and swallowing and eating. I think a lot of people don't realize that we do those things.
Mm-hmm. I've walked into a patient's room before and they see the badge and they're like, but they're eating fine, or they're talking fine, not eating fine. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here with applesauce and graham crackers and I'm the fun person you want to see. And people are very surprised. I've always thought we should be like head and neck therapist or something thoracic and above therapists. We do everything neuro-based and neck and breathing and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, that's how I always lovingly say we are anything from the chest and above. So we are speech, language, voice, eating, cognition therapist. But I always say that that's too much to put on a badge, so they just called us speech and language therapist. And I think even some people don't know the difference. We have fields where some people very much specialize in certain fields. So for example, voice therapy is one very specialized area that is very needed, but something I personally would have to bring someone on to talk about. I don't do that as much. I would refer out for that. But even speech is in terms of sounds, and language is in terms of more your receptive and expressive language abilities. And I think that's something that we always have to describe to parents when we first see them, that those are two actually different areas. And then you have fluency, and you have eating and feeding, and you have cognitive therapy that we do too as well.
Lots of things. I think another thing to just point out to people listening who aren't as familiar is that some, physical therapists and occupational therapists, they're pretty much always called physical therapy, occupational therapy, PT or OT. SLPs, I think it comes from our title being so confusing and long that some people just say speech therapist, some say speech pathologist, some say speech language pathologist, some say I've heard speech clinician, like lots of different titles, and it all is the same. We all did the same school and all of those things. It just is kind of a preference thing, I think.
And I think you bringing up school is a good point, because not that it's a important point, but it is an important point. So to become a speech pathologist, you have to do 4 years of undergrad, and some people do this in different steps, but 4 years of undergrad and then typically 2-ish years of graduate school, but you have to have your master's degree in this field to be a speech pathologist. Just as little education for people of how long it takes to get that degree.
Regardless of what setting you work in.
Yes.
We all have same basic background.
And between the three of us, which we're going to talk more about, between the three of us, we have had very different journeys in our professions that have given us our own experiences, which is also lovely because we've been able to share a lot of ideas with each other and bounce ideas off each other and have had different experiences to share with one another. So should we go ahead and explain those?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
So my journey to becoming a speech language pathologist was pretty straightforward. I went to college, undergrad. I think I went in undeclared originally and wanted to declare special education, or just, I'm not sure if it would have just been education. But it just didn't feel totally right. So I met with an advisor at the school, and she suggested I take the introduction to communication disorders at the same time as phonetics, because I think it was the phonetics timeframe to take that course, which I love phonetics. And I feel like it's something that I picked up on really easily. And it's something that I push all my students to perfect, because I think it's so important. And I think it's a not loved part of the field. And so the fact that I took that course and I just totally fell in love with it and it clicked. I just knew I was on the right path. So I'm really grateful for that advisor to have put me in that course. Because school was not something that was that easy for me. I struggled to get B's and C's, I would say. But when I did phonetics, I had like the best grade because it just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
So that felt really good to me. And I knew in that class that this was for me. And then I realized, a couple years in that I was like, oh, you have to have a master's degree. Okay. So that's fun. But I pushed through and here I am. So very thankful. So shout out to all those advisors in the education field, because you are I don't remember her name now, but she put me on the path that I am today. That's huge.
That is a big deal.
Very grateful. Yeah.
For her to read your interests and your strengths and point you in that direction.
Yeah.
Well, I can talk about my path. It's long. So grab a cup of something. It's a long one.
It's always long for both you guys.
Right. Typically it's long for us.
Jabber on forever.
Listen, so I originally went to school for nursing and I attended a private all-girls Catholic school, which is totally not my style.
I always forget that about you. Always.
I know. Every time you just say that, I'm like, what? Why?
Yeah. That was a strange decision.
You. Not that there's anything wrong with those colleges. It's just a surprise every time you tell me that you did that.
It's not my jam. Yeah. And nursing.
Yeah.
I wanted to be a nurse for my whole entire life. But I was super, super good in high school. And so I got to college and I was like, what? I can make my own decisions. I can do whatever I want. And
girl went crazy.
A little bit. And I had the worst GPA of my entire life. I think I was barely at a 2 point something. And it was a very expensive private college. And I was advised by an advisor, hey,
get out.
In a nice way, yes. Actually, she was my Spanish teacher, I think. She was my Spanish teacher. And there was
even your Spanish teacher was like, you got to go.
She gave me a ride one day because she was like, we got to talk. I was getting a D in her class and in college. Yep. And there's a companion college nearby, an all boys Catholic college. And so they're 15 minutes apart and there's buses that go between and you have classes on both campuses. Anyway, so she gave me a ride one day. She wanted to talk to me and that was her advice. Her advice was I just think if you do want to pursue this nursing thing, I had gotten kind of close with her, maybe you should go to a state school.
Get out of here.
And try to get your generals done. And then, you can come back if you want, do all that. And she was very honest, if you were my kid, I wouldn't want you spending this much money to do this all over again. Because I basically would have had to retake all of my intro classes for nursing. So that's what I did. I left all my friends, the most expensive friends I've ever had. And I left them all and I went and lived with my parents for my sophomore year of college. And I went to the state school that was nearest us and I did all my generals. And then I missed my boyfriend, who's now my husband. And so I moved back to where he was going to school at a different state college. And then it was there that while I was at the other school, I was like, do I want to do nursing or maybe I want to be a teacher? And it was kind of the same situation, torn between medical and educational. And I met with a different person at this other school who told me to take an intro to communication disorders class in my junior year. And that was it. I was done. It was sold. It was perfect.
I feel like I've met a lot of SLPs that have said, I wanted to be a nurse or a teacher. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's such a nice balance between the two.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I didn't want to be in charge of a whole classroom of children, but I liked working with kids. I had done other things involving, kids growing up and I liked the medical aspect of things, but I didn't think I could handle the gruesome parts of it. So yeah, it is a good balance. So yeah, I did that. And then I think for another time, I can talk about my journey to graduate school because that is the much longer story. If you thought this was long, just wait. It took me 3 tries to get into grad school. So
Amy's we're just going to take a whole episode about me.
Nobody cares, right? The moral of the story is nobody cares. But really, I hope that there is somebody listening who is either trying to get into graduate school or had a similar situation where you really struggled to get in and it took you multiple times? Because it took me a while to do it.
That's a good story because you are an amazing speech pathologist and you are a great example of persistence paying off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wasn't going to give up on that one.
2 good examples of you don't have to know right away what you want to do.
Yeah. Exactly.
Take advantage of those advisors and shadowing jobs and stuff. So you don't have to start freshman year of college knowing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my story is a little bit different in terms of probably knowing since I was really little that I wanted to be a speech therapist and then trying to fight it and then realizing there was no fighting it. Both my mom and my dad are speech pathologists. So it's
in your blood.
In my blood. It's in there. And I grew up with it. I grew up with that field. I mean, as a mom and a dad, both being one, days that I didn't have school, I got to go to work with my parents and I would sit and watch them do therapy and get to be a part of their therapy sessions and really loved the field. I thought it was really cool how my parents, would go and help people talk or help people eat. And my parents were always really good at making me feel like I was helping them do the therapy. So I went to college and wanted to, like we said, decided I was going to become a teacher and I wanted to be a special education teacher. So first I started in early childhood elementary. I wanted to be a developmental pediatrician. And then I was like, probably not. And went into the education route of it and thought I'll just do early childhood education and stayed there for a little while and then said, no, I don't really want to be in a classroom all day. Doing that. So I thought I would be going to intervention, and that led me to doing elementary special ed. And once again was like, this is great. Love this. Don't want to be in a classroom all day because I just want to change it up and have the option to work in multiple settings if I want. So it was my sophomore year of college, and we had to apply to get into our undergrad program. And I applied and knew that this is where I wanted to be the whole time, was to be a speech pathologist. I was just trying to try other things. So I did. That's how I became a speech therapist, and I love it. And the really interesting full circle moment the other day was my sons went to work with me. They came and they sat and helped me do therapy the other day. And it was a full circle moment of like, oh my gosh, this is what I used to do. And my brother, God love him, called me the other day, and he's trying to figure out possibly what he wants to do for his next job. And he had always joked that he was fighting going in to be a speech therapist. And the other day he was like, do you think I could just become a speech therapist? Like, you could just teach me? And I was like, well, I went to 6 years of school for this. So unless you want to go on that journey,
I need a lot of red pens for that.
Yeah. A lot of work to get there. Ready. But it is, like I said, it is for me the best decision I could have ever made. And that full circle moment with my own kids was very special the other day. And the flexibility and I think we'll talk more about this, but the settings that I've been able to work in, from nonprofit organizations to working with adults, to working with kids, to working in rehab facilities and now into the education setting, I feel like I have been able to work with all ages and also in multiple settings. Mm-hmm. And I've had the flexibility to be able to stay home and the flexibility to go back to work. And it's been a great profession that I would recommend to anyone.
Yeah, I think the beauty of it. You can work with any age and any setting, working on any type of therapy. So like at my hospital, you can specialize in one area. So we have really, really good AUGCOM team and feeding team and voice therapy and cleft. And you can find a little nook of the field and really hone in on that. Or you can keep a variety. Mm-hmm, and you can be in a hospital, a private practice, or a school. So that's the beauty of it.
I think my favorite is I love in any setting. Like right now I'm in a preschool setting, and I love being able to look at a family and be like, all right, let's do this. We're going to do this. We're going to tackle this, and we're going to make progress. And, in a rehab facility where I used to work, it was like with individuals, you constantly are working to help them gain something that they lost or gain something that they don't have yet. And it is so exciting, and it's hard work, and it is a responsibility that I find as a privilege.
It's really rewarding for sure.
It is. And I think it is important to talk about the not rewarding parts and the really exhausting parts.
There are a lot of exhausting parts too.
And yeah, the really upsetting moments, patients that make you cry or parents that said something that you didn't want to hear and vice versa. So I think in the future, we're going to talk about burnout. I think that's a huge issue in our field, as well as paperwork challenges that goes right along with burnout.
Yes.
I feel like 80% of our job is paperwork. I've seen that documented somewhere.
It's a lot.
So it's a ton. So I think it's important that we're going to be real about it, and that it isn't always like the best.
It's not all butterflies and rainbows all the time.
Right.
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Amy's
green screen is butterflies and rainbows.
Yeah.
My green screen is like the bomb.
Yeah. She sucked me down that rabbit hole.
I did. More to come on that one later. I think that pretty much wraps that up, right? We went over how we became SLPs and why and what we love about it. So now hopefully those of you listening who are speech pathologists, you know where we're coming from. And those of you who aren't know what we do and have a little background on maybe some of the topics that are going to be coming your way as we continue this podcast.
So, ladies, what's in your to-go cup?
It's a loud P there.
Yeah, that was a good.
It's a plosive.
It's a really good.
It's a plosive.
Plosive. It's like one of the only diacritics I remember is when you don't release it, like the unreleased P. What's in your cup?
I wish people could see your face when you did that.
Well, versus what's in your cup.
Been working on final consonant deletion a lot lately.
In my to-go cup is gratitude. I'm super grateful for that advisor that put me on this path, because I didn't even know what speech was before I met her and explained to her what I wanted to do. And I'm grateful for this job, whether it's an easy day or a not so easy day. I'm just very grateful to go to the hospital and work each day that I go. What about you?
In my cup is, because the episode title is Picking a Path, and my path was quite bumpy, not just my undergrad path, but my graduate school journey also. And so in my to-go cup is appreciation for that journey, and I own it, and it's a part of my story, and I'm happy for all of the little bumps that happened, even though at the moment they weren't great, but now I'm on the other side of all those things, and I'm reaping all of those benefits of the path, I guess. Joyner.
And in my to-go cup is, I think I am grateful to have something that has tied me to my parents. Being able to do what they did was kind of something special. I think having the opportunity to also be trusted by families when they are in a moment of uncertainty, that I get to helpfully help walk them through that, and choosing this occupation that has provided me with, like Brittany said, it's not always butterflies and rainbows, but has provided me with something that I really enjoy doing.
Well, that was beautiful, and I take back my answer, and I'm taking that answer instead.
Amy always wants to take Joyner's word. Keep talking. I want to write it down.
She's like Ursula. She's like Ursula with the Little Mermaid. She's like, sing for me.
All I want is your voice.
All right, and that's a wrap.
Thank you so much for joining us today. If you liked what you heard, please hit subscribe or follow so you know each time a new episode is posted.
Please do us a giant favor and join our Facebook group and follow our Instagram page, Cup of Counsel Podcast. A review would really help us out too.
Let us know what you loved, what you want to hear more about, and what we could do to improve this podcast to make it the most meaningful for you. Thank you.